What's up, Coachable family? I hope you are excited for this week's episode as much as I am. I'm your host, Tori Gordon, and today I have the pleasure of being in studio with the infamous NQ. He is a Emmy-nominated award winner. He is just one of the most fantastic poets I have ever had the pleasure of hearing his work that inspires so many people around the world. And you guys are going to be in for a treat this week because he's going to bless us with some of his spoken word poetry, which is sure to touch you right in the heart and in the feels. So this is the second time on the show, and I'm excited to dive in person. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We were just talking off camera a little bit about just your art form in general and your incredible talent. We're here in Vegas today, so there's something called Arcadia Festival that you're in town for, and you're speaking at, and we're doing workshops at. And one of the things you said right before we hit record was like, we were getting all of the cameras set up, and you're like, I wish I could just sometimes disappear. And I was wanting us to hit record so that you could kind of tell us a little bit more about that. Like when you say, I wish I could disappear, how does that relate to your work? Because you were just telling me a little bit about what that means to you in terms of how you can bring that forward into the world so that it like really, really lands with people. What does disappearing mean?
I'm clearly like the source and the vehicle for my art, but I'm also like the obstacle to connecting with the audience because they have to get past my package, my identity. And the reality is I'd rather that they just kind of like experience the art. So sometimes on stage, even though I have to be there, I wish I could like disappear so that people could just see a mirror of themselves through the words.
Do you feel like when people are hearing your poetry and your work, they're connecting with you as the individual, or do you feel like people are able to kind of I know it in my experience of hearing your work, like I hear you as the vehicle, I hear your voice, but I also feel something deeper within myself and within my own being in that reflection of like your experience or your emotion. Like I can see that within myself. Do you feel like people are coming up against you, Adam, or are they able to like, what is that thing that helps you to connect into like what's happening on the inside of you versus just externally?
Well, I definitely create from things that are inspiring to me, things that are moving to me, things that make me angry. So it always starts in a place of truth. But there's a difference between creation and presentation.
Yeah.
And when I'm presenting, I have other things. Like I want people to like my poetry. I want the show to go well. I want blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that can be an obstacle to just giving it away.
Yeah.
I don't really take a lot of responsibility for how people perceive me because it's like a fool's errand. And I can't confine it to one thing because it's probably everything. Anytime I do a show, everybody's having different thoughts and feelings throughout the show. Right. Whether they're like actually connected to what I'm saying or whether they're triggered by what I'm saying, you know, I keep showing up.
Yeah.
Open to have a new experience with people while I'm sharing my work.
What are you inspired by right now that's like driving your creative process and what was wanting to come through you in your work right now?
I just try to be as present as I can. And for somebody that thinks as much as I do, that can be a challenge. But like in the Uber drive over, I just had this like great conversation with this guy. And he was telling me all about his life. And unfortunately, recently he's been laid off and he just started driving Uber to kind of like put food on the table. Those are his words. And he told me about like his life story, and we just got into this like really deep, random, momentary connection, you know? And sometimes like I'll go to parties or, you know, events or festivals, whatever it is, and I don't drop in as deep as I just did with my Uber driver. So that was like something that stood out in reality. Do I know that that will make it into a piece specifically? No. But like, if I pay attention to a real connection with someone, or, you know, a bird that flies by in a really beautiful way, or something that just stands out in the world, and I start a piece from that place, then the rest of the piece will almost start to write itself if I give it enough time and space.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about recently, is like presence is the prerequisite for connection. You know,
Why did you think about that? Like, what happened?
I was, many moments of my own kind of in self-reflection and self-work of realizing what are the moments for me that feel the most meaningful and intimate and true and deep, and what is the deepest longing of my heart, which is connection, real intimate connection, real being seen and seeing someone else and being in that space of togetherness and unity, and thinking about what prevents us from that, what keeps us from going there.
Was there a moment that came up though? Like, did something happen in your life that you were like, man, I fucking wanna connect, or whatever?
One of the things I was thinking about, so I don't know if you know this, but in 2011, I lost my sister to leukemia.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And we had to take her off life support. So I was there with her when that happened. And I was thinking about presence and the presence that is you, that is me, that emanates this body. It's not just our body. It's like the life force that's being expressed through me is my presence. And that is felt when someone is absent, when someone is gone. You miss their presence. So when we took her off life support and she made that holy transition, like I'm in this moment with her and literally witnessing the transcendence of her soul. And there was a moment where she's there in her body with us, her presence is there, and then it's not.
Yeah.
And how deeply that presence requires you to be in this moment, but it's also the felt sense of someone, the presence of feeling someone else's presence with you, and how without it, connection is fleeting, or it's just not tangible in the same way. And so it just made me realize that not just my presence is who I am, but also being present is the portal to connecting to all possibility, all that is love, the love that I felt for her, the love that I feel for those around me is the most deeply accessible when I'm present with that feeling versus thinking about that feeling, so that's something
kind of like that Norman Rockwell painting, when he's like painting himself in the mirror, painting himself in the mirror, painting himself in the mirror, and it just goes on for infinity. It's like the more you think about presence, the farther you get away from it. Like you just have to be presence. And there's nothing that would bring you more into presence than, ecstasy or tragedy,
Yeah. That brings you right into that.
Yeah.
The reality.
How are you creating more of that in your life now?
Oh, man. I think it's an intentional cultivation of slowing down a lot of times and recognizing. So within my community that I'm building, which is very intentional, we're creating spaces for that level of connection, not just hanging out and like having a good time, but also intentionally, like my being is, I care about all of the things that are happening around us, but like also like, how are you? So just like last night we were out at this festival and I found myself in the middle of all these people. Like I just would rather go in a corner and like really sit and like talk to somebody and see how they're doing. You know what I mean? And listening to that voice and letting that voice lead the way versus thinking about what's socially acceptable or what's everyone else doing or like really like letting my heart lead me where it wants to take me and being there fully, be here now. I love Ram Dass's, idea of just be here. or am I here or am I here? And I'm, am I somewhere else? Am I thinking about what people are thinking of me and all of the other things? It's just like letting, like you were saying, the disappearing, letting me kind of wash away and come into connection with the person with me, and in a way that it's not mask to mask, it's face to face. That's.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I was thinking about something else.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're not present. You're like, I'm not here for it. That's amazing.
That was such a dad joke.
I love it. So, I would love for people to get a sense for the work that you do and really feel, and I hope those listening will let yourself, whether you're driving or whatever, maybe take a moment to listen to this, but then re-listen to this where you can drop in, because I think that what Adam shares and in Q, which is what he's known for, is all about inquiring within. I really want you to inquire within. What does this bring up for you? What does it make alive within your own heart? And what is can you see yourself in the words? Can you feel yourself in the words that he shares? And I want people to be able to experience that if you're open to sharing some of your work with us.
Sure. Yeah. Which one would you like?
Father Time would be great if that's, if you're open to sharing that one.
I'm staring at the number, wondering if I should call. I can hear the tick-tock from the clock on the wall as it meshes with the thump-thump beat of my heart. Sometimes getting something started is the hardest part. I didn't meet my dad until I was 15. I'd seen his photograph, but his image was sickening. A coward with a dick, but no balls to back it up. See, when he left me as a kid, I had cause for acting up. The funny thing about hate is the person you hate doesn't feel that hate. You feel that hate, but wait, the weight can be too much for a person to take, and personally, I was hurt, so I just locked it away. I was angry all the time, and I didn't know why. I couldn't handle my rage, so I would hide it inside, pretending everything was fine, became a daily pastime. Time passed, and I started to believe in my own lies. I took it out on my mom because she raised me alone. The rage that I couldn't own had left me totally numb. It was like landmines in my mind that I didn't understand, so when the boy inside cried, the young man outside yelled. I think I learned about my masculinity from TV. The people weren't real, so I knew they couldn't leave me. I would sit there for hours right in front of the tube. The images that I saw were my depiction of truth. It was manhood in a box, and I bought into it. The censorship of anything inside of me that's sensitive. The sentence is a lifetime of tears suppressed in a stone face, an overblown ego they've distracted through a paper chase. Back when I was 9, I imagined in my mind that my father was a spy working for the FBI, and that's why he couldn't stop by, write or drop a line. He was off saving our lives from the bad guys. But that was just a lie that I used to get by so that you wouldn't see the tears welling up in my eyes. When you're rejected by the person that you're created by, you secretly feel like you don't have a right to your life. I thought if I confronted him, then it would make it all right. But since I couldn't forgive him, it just recycled my spite. I remember meeting him for the first time. Every time a person passed by, I would ask, Mom, is that him? I look a little like him, right? No? Oh. What about that guy? And that was what it was like to meet the man that gave me my life. To shake his hand and look into his eyes. We talked till he apologized, then said our goodbyes. I walked away on my own, then I began to cry. Now, for years after that, I acted like it's all resolved. I had told him what I thought, so I figured problem solved, but it just re-evolved. My insecurities were eating at my mental health. I took it out on the world. because I hated myself. That's when I finally decided I needed some help. I opened up. I started writing and sharing about my past. I got honest with myself and I started chipping at my mask. I looked into the mirror and confronted what I saw, accepting the reflection by embracing every flaw, then directing the connection into breaking down the walls by reflecting the perfection of the God inside us all. I stopped focusing on everything that I had been hateful for, and I started focusing on everything I could be. And personally, there is a lot that you can be thankful for. If pain is dragging you down, just cut the ankle cord. That's when the weight lifted and I really started living. It's when my hate shifted and I really started giving. It's when my fate twisted. It was like an ego exorcism. Your mind state can be the most powerful of prisons. My father never played catch with me or gave advice. But if nothing else, that man gave me my life. And that's enough for me. If that's all he can ever give. Because I'm appreciative for every day I get to live. And even though I don't need my dad to validate me, I thought that I should write this poem to thank him for creating me. Because every moment that we are alive is like a gift. And if that's not enough to forgive, then what is? I'm staring at the number, wondering if I should call. I can hear the tick-tock from the clock on the wall as it meshes with the thump-thump beat of my heart. Sometimes getting something started is the hardest. I pick the phone up. The dial tone begins to sing. I punch his number into it and it begins to ring. Ring. Hello, Mike. Hey, man, it's Adam. Your son.
Mm. Mm. So powerful. Thank you for that. I feel it. I feel that. It's really beautiful to hear your own alchemy of that whole process. Like to like hear the story of your wrestling with this pain and this identity and this story of not being wanted or not feeling loved or accepted. And then like the transcendence of that into gratitude and ultimately love. And I think what you do so well is you're able to take pain, the pain that you've been through, the pain that's happening in the world, and you alchemize it through your words into power, into medicine. And that's then healing for I would assume yourself, but also those that hear your words. What is that process like for you when you write something so personal and so like you put your process out into this piece of art? Is that, I would imagine, what's that therapy like for you? Is it therapeutic to?
Yeah, it is. It's also though like, forgive the cliche, but it's like creatively giving birth or something. So it's also a bit painful to like go back to different places that I'm not in on a day-to-day basis, but that are still like impacting my experience of my life in the world. But I always feel like, I don't know, honored maybe is the right word when something like comes through me. You know, it might start in something that I'm curious about or something that's unresolved for me, something I want to manifest or something I want to release. And it might like go through the lens of my experience. But I also just think creativity exists outside of whoever is using it. And these ideas are floating around just waiting for somebody to grab them and put them into their own art, however that shows up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's just, for me, so much of like my healing, although it's been very, very personal, when I think about like the people who inspire me and who've like kind of lit the way for my path, it was always people sharing their stories of adversity and pain and challenge for the moments where I've been in my darkest times and like needed a light, for somebody to turn on a light and say like, there's a path forward. And I think your words illuminate that for people, in the sense that how you feel today, however dark or painful or challenging that is, in hearing your process and your path, it like shows people that there's a way out, that it doesn't always have to be the way it is right now. And I think sometimes we get lost in that. We think that right now, or our perspective is just what it is, and we get stuck in it. But you give these people like a zoomed out perspective, maybe that they didn't have before.
I mean, I'm definitely giving it to myself first. That's the thing that I wish I could preface before every one of my shows in a way that didn't come off pretentious. But like, the last thing I would ever want to do is be preachy. I don't think I know anything more than anyone.
Yeah.
But when I write, I go into like a little bit of a vortex and I'm talking to myself. I'm the first person in my audience. I'm giving myself reminders of the life that I want to live, how to like be the best version of me in the world. And then I hope that people hear that and reflect that back onto their own life, no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah. So much of your work is, I mean, your book is called Inquire Within. It's all about self-awareness and raising consciousness and creating, you know, the life that you want to live, and being this like level of spiritual connection that you have just even through your writing and through your words and presence, obviously that's felt very deeply. Like, where does that come from? Are you a spiritual person? What does that look like for you? And has this type of writing around personal transformation and just you have a depth that a lot of poets don't. So I'm curious, like, where does that come from for you? Like your personal journey with.
Well, like the conversation we were having earlier about presence, that clearly is something that sparks you. And if you decided to create a poem around that, you have things that you want to explore there. And that really is about God, spirituality, however you want to say it, right? So I think for me, it's the same thing. It's like I'm just actually like, I am living my life and I am observing my life. And when I can get into that observer state, I can like notice something, you know, and it just will like kind of get a little more vibrant than everything else. My wife has been like practicing guitar and singing, and she's a little self-conscious because she doesn't, I guess, to her own ears have like the best voice. So she was like laughing with me the other day and she was like, "You don't like it when I sing," and I was like, "That's so not true." I was like, "I absolutely love it." And then I said to her, "You have as much right to sing as Nina Simone. You know, you have as much right to paint as Pablo Picasso." And then I went, "Huh, I like that." So then I wrote it down. And that will be kind of like the beginning of a piece. I think being human is being spiritual.
Tell me more about that.
I mean, everything is made of energy. It's infinite into ourselves. It's infinite out into the universe. Life doesn't get replaced. It gets transformed. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I know that I feel is just about as true as anything else that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a miracle to be here. We were literally in a race against, on the low end, 100 million sperm. And on the high end, I think it's like 350. And like everybody won.
Yeah.
Everybody won. And we walk around like we're mistakes.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'd love to hear one more of your poems one of your favorites, anything that you really enjoy sharing.
I'm going to do one that's really old.
I would love that.
And it's also from Inquire Within, but I'm going to tell you why I want to do this piece. I did it last night at Arcadia, and I hadn't done it in years. I mean, literally years. I think this is like 12 years old or something. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because earlier at dinner, I was like waiting for my food and I was scrolling. And I passed something that was an article that the Japanese have just created a technology. I don't know whether it's going to go to market yet, but they have created this tech where they will be able to record some version of your dreams and then play them back.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you think about how that would change our understanding of dream world versus
Psyche,
reality,
yeah.
I mean, exponential, or just the unconscious mind, right? So I was like, wow. And then I remembered I had put that very thing in this piece like 12 years earlier. And so I read it while I was waiting for my salmon salad. And then I was like, I'm going to do it in the show. So I feel like I should do it here.
Let's do it.
I won't be surprised when the aliens arrive. I won't be surprised when our government collapses. I won't be surprised when the tornado comes or the earthquake happens or the typhoon crashes. I won't be surprised when I start seeing ghosts, or a tsunami wipes out the whole East Coast, or an underground volcano vaporizes Sweden, or Hawaii has a snowstorm that rivals those in Cleveland. I won't be surprised when machines take over. They tried to warn us in the Terminators in the Matrix. I won't be surprised when the zombies attack and start roaming through the streets, biting off people's faces. I won't be surprised when the oil runs out, or the water runs out, or the food runs out, or the air runs out, and we have to pay a company to breathe in and out, and we have to wear a mask every time we leave the house, out scrounging for supplies, trying to survive on what little scraps we can find. Shit. I won't be surprised if an epidemic spreads from the city to the countryside, killing everyone in sight except for a lucky few who just so happen to be immune and band together after the disaster to build a commune. See, I won't be surprised if the Aztecs are right and the bees go extinct and a meteor collides and we skip World War III and IV to jump to 5 bombs dropping from the sky. Me, I won't be surprised, but I also won't be surprised when I fall in love. And I won't be surprised when technology advances. I won't be surprised when we solve global warming and create microbots to eat up all the carbon in our atmosphere. I won't be surprised when we cure all disease, or we learn to operate beyond our personal needs, or we build a machine that records our dreams and projects them so we can analyze every scene. I won't be surprised when we legalize drugs and then use all the taxes for infrastructure and education. I won't be surprised when we feed the whole world with a seed they created in a laboratory station. I won't be surprised when corporations start taking moral responsibility for what they do and stop shipping jobs overseas for slave labor and then using the global economy as their excuse. I won't be surprised when religion doesn't matter, and country doesn't matter, and color doesn't matter, and gender doesn't matter, and preference doesn't matter, because in the end, matter doesn't really even matter. So I won't be surprised if we fuck until we're one race, then colonnade a planet somewhere out in outer space where we figure out that human cells are really just universes making up a different person in another time and place. That shit's deep. But if it happens, I won't be surprised. I'll be sitting back like, I fucking tried to tell you guys.
Oh man, we got like a prophet in here. That's incredible. I mean, the parallels are insane.
Yeah, even the epidemic thing. I mean, I literally have not performed that thing. I can't recall. I put it in Inquire Within, but it was something I kind of like removed from some of like the normal Rolodex of my sets. So it's interesting to be re-reminded. Some pieces, the older that I get, the more experience I have in life, the less I'm connected to them. And some actually age out.
Yeah.
You know, I realize I don't believe that anymore, or like how I view it has changed, or it doesn't match with the times anymore. And then sometimes they get deeper.
Yeah.
And they get more relevant. So.
Yeah. I mean, to think about the state of the world and where we are right now, and the fact that you wrote that 12 years ago is uncanny to see what, you know, where the state of the world is today. And the idea that we could be recording our dreams is fast. It would be incredibly fascinating.
Well, I never remember my dreams. So it would be cool to.
The unconscious mind, see where it takes you, what comes out of it. Yeah. What are you working on right now? Like, what's your world look like? What's work look like?
Well, I have a lot of shows. Like I get booked on a lot of like, I would say corporate gigs, community gigs, festival gigs. I do a lot of workshops.
Yeah.
So a lot of people bring me in to help foster creativity within a group of people, whether that's like a corporate team or whether it's a community like you have. And I love doing that because I love spoken word and poetry. And some of the best experiences I've ever had art-wise was when I was in the audience watching other poets on stage. So I like to change people's perception of what they think poetry is, expand their minds around it, and also give them an experience of tapping into who they are as poets. So I don't know how many shows we're going to do this year, like 60 to 80 or something.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah. So you're traveling all over and just going from event to event. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So since the book came out, because I spoke with you, I think right after the book came out, it was around that time. Do you think you'll do another one? Is that something you think you'll continue to do?
Well, so the next project we're going to do, I guess I can say it here because it really doesn't matter one way or the other, you know. We're doing something next year, so it's a little bit off. But I created an album. And when I created the album, I wasn't really sure if I was going to share it. Like, it was much more about the process than the product. And then once I finished, it was like so personal that I really wasn't sure I wanted to share it. But I like previewed it to some of my friends, you know, whose opinions that I really respect around like art and vulnerability, and just got an overwhelming response that I kind of had to put it out.
Yeah.
So, so that's what we're working on right now. And we're going to do an accompanying journal with it that allows other people to have an opportunity to go on their own healing journey through writing their own poetry based on the different poems that are on the album with prompts that kind of spark different things.
That sounds incredible. Do you have that's next year?
Yeah, we're going to put
Potentially?
it out for sure next year, next May for mental health.
Oh, exciting, exciting. Well, you're one of a kind. You really are. Your presence is deeply, deeply felt in the room with you, but like in your words, and it touches the hearts and minds of people that hear it all over the world. So it's a real honor and a pleasure to be able to have this conversation and have you in the studio and have you take your time, because you could be a million other places. So it means the world. If you want people to connect with you or book you for potential events or whatever, will you please tell people where they can find you and how they can get in touch?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is in-q.com. So in-q is in question. Mm-hmm. So it's in-q.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram or any of those things. I'm at InQ Life. And I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
If you want to inquire within, you can do that. I have an Amazon special, InQ Live at the Ace Theater. There's a lot of stuff out there, videos.
Yeah.
But I want to say that you're one of a kind too. Mm-hmm. And everybody that's listening to this, you're one of a kind. And thank you for listening to our conversation and my poetry.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put all of that information in the show notes, as you guys know. I hope that today's episode touched you in your heart, that you will go apply something that you learned. Maybe that's just getting present with yourself, noticing those tiny little moments that's happening in an Uber or in the shower or a bird that's flying by, that you'll take the time to notice your life, become aware of what's happening around you so that you can experience it, be with it, feel it, because life is happening right here, right now. You've never been in your future. Your past is behind you. So be here now. I love you guys. We'll see you next week on the Coachable Podcast.